Hello again, good people, viewers of the video blogs from the Pan-African Orthodox Christian Church. This is actually our second blog for this particular week, just because I've had a whole lot of things on my mind. The events over this past weekend, international events, reminded me of some domestic events and of a few issues that I think need to be on our minds. And when I'm talking about international incidents, there was the terrorist attack in Brussels that we heard about, that was front and center. But there were multiple terrorist attacks and killings on the continent of Africa. Multiple. And those got little or no play nationally or internationally on the news. And just the difference in treatment of the pain and suffering of the people of Brussels, people of European descent, and the people of Africa reminded me of when, and I don't even want to say the young man's name, that young person who went into St. Emmanuel's AME Church in Charleston, South Carolina, and shot up black congregants. Once he was pursued and captured, the police, after capturing him, literally stopped and treat him to a lunch at Burger King. Now compare that treatment with the treatment that Freddie Gray received. Freddie Gray, who was guilty of no crime except looking a policeman in the eye. Think about that for a moment. Guilty of looking a policeman in the eye, then turning around, taking off running. The police chase him down. He's guilty of no crime. They chase him down, they catch him, they throw him in the back of their police wagon, and they take him on one of those notorious bumpy rides where he ends up severing his spine and dying. So on one hand, you have someone who killed 9 people in cold blood being treated to a hamburger, to lunch. Then you have someone who was guilty of no crime being treated as if he was a mass murderer and literally killed by police. That difference in terms of the treatment of some people compared to the treatment of us was on full display this past week, as Brussels is everywhere, their pain, their suffering, and no one is talking about the pain and suffering endured by the mothers, the fathers, the siblings, the children, the parents, and the friends of those African sisters and brothers who lost loved ones. No one's talking about that. No one is having specials on the news about the pain that they're going through. No one is having Senate hearings on what we should do. There are no presidential hopefuls that are feeling pressed to have an official statement on their pain, yet everyone is speaking about what happened in Brussels. And I was just reminded of the fact that the presiding bishop of the Pan-African Orthodox Christian Church said that right now, as black people, we are in the midst of 2 fights, 2 struggles. One is a struggle and a fight for our rights, and another is a struggle and fight for our humanity. A struggle and fight for our rights. As citizens of the United States, or wherever you may be watching this video, as a citizen of your country, you are supposed to be guaranteed those specific rights inherent in that country. You're supposed to be treated equally with all other citizens of that country. We know that that is not happening. And that's why our history and tradition of struggle and protest and rubbing raw the sores of discontent and pointing out what's wrong and pointing out what is evil and pointing out what needs to be changed and pointing to a new and brighter future, that kind of courage, that kind of activism has to continue, because we have got to be involved in a struggle for our basic rights. But there's also a larger struggle, and is a struggle for our humanity, where we seek to tear down these false idols and false gods and false innuendos and accusations of our inherent inferiority, or that we are less than because we are black. We recognize that we are God's firstborn, that we are the ones that gave the world religion, art, science, civilization, etc., etc., etc. But we have got to recognize that and celebrate that to reclaim our humanity, to be able to look into that mirror and love the person that you see. And then to go outside and see someone that looks just like you and have that same level of love, that same level of respect. To be able to see the God in you and the God in others that look like you. The fight for our rights is critical, but that fight for our humanity, I can't even say it's just as critical. I would say it's even more so. And we've got to be involved in both. The issues, just how we are disrespecting our humanity is belittled all over the planet. It shows how those two struggles kind of intermingle and overlap. But we've got to recognize that we are definitely involved in two struggles, and we got to be on the front lines of both. Especially since in 3 years, in the year 2019, as black folk, we will be celebrating our quad centennial, 400 years of officially being in these Americas. We were here before this country even became a country, and folk are still talking as if we are not legitimate or actual citizens of this land, when this land wouldn't be this land without our labor and our blood, sweat, tears, ingenuity, creativity, etc., etc. And so as we are approaching that quad centennial, we've got to approach it each and every day fighting with everything that we have to get our rights that we deserve, that our ancestors fought and died for. But we've also got to fight with that same fervor, if not more, for our humanity, how we feel about ourselves, how we treat one another. In spite of what anyone else says about us, we got to love us some us. And we've got to recognize the God in us. Think about that, pray over it, and go out and do some great things. Because God created you to be your best self and to give your best self to the world. And I believe you're going to do it. Talk to you later.